Hey guys, welcome to another episode number 5 of
Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast.
It's exciting times. Today we're going to be talking about change.
Yes, embracing change.
It doesn't have to be that hard.
And learning how to gracefully allow it in your life. So we're going to share some of the stories that have happened in our life around change, and also just how you can have more graceful change in your life. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned, peeps.
Hey, you just turned into the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast, the show that aims to inspire, uplift, and questions everything. And now your hosts, Bart and Holly Emerson.
Guys, welcome to another episode of
Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast, episode number 5.
Boom.
Thanks for joining us. And if you're returning, thanks for coming back. And if you're new, it's awesome to have you.
Welcome.
And so for today's topic, we decided to talk about change. You know, a lot of people don't like change. And how can you gracefully allow change in your life?
Change is sucky.
Because,
let's be honest.
Because the world is amidst great changes right now. There's a lot of turmoil and chaos, I think, and
big time. Everywhere you look, I mean, everything is changing. Mm-hmm. Everything. From, the way that our society functions, like with work, with employment, with relationships, like everything is changing.
Everything. Yeah, there's so much change, and most people don't like change.
No, of course. Of course, people cling on to, like, as even if it's like a, let's say we're going to talk about relationships. Even if it's a terrible relationship, the idea of change is terrible for most people.
Yeah, and not even just like relationships, like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, but even friendships.
Big time.
Change in friendships can be really difficult for a lot of people.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Of course. Yeah, it's the idea of the unknown, right?
Yeah,
it's if you let go of this, well, where are you going to end up, right? We always have this idea that there's fear that what's on the other side is going to be worse than what you have now. Mm-hmm. And that's the rub. That's the trouble.
Yeah, it is. And the ironic thing too is just change is the only thing that you can actually count on.
Of course.
Because everything changes. Nothing stays the same. And so I think it's really important to become super comfortable with change.
Especially now.
Now.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I see it over the next, let's say, decade, I think we're going to experience change at a much faster pace. Because with everything that's happening with technology, like technology is changing everything. Like, let's say, for instance, the idea of self-driving cars. Okay? That idea is coming. Whether people like it or not, it might be still far off, but when that happens, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Mm-hmm. That is going to have a massive effect on our world economy, because right now, there's millions of people employed in the transportation sector, whether it's taxi drivers or, truck drivers, bus drivers, so much of it. And sooner or later, when that happens, I mean, it's going to be chaos, right? Like if people are not ready for it, there's going to be a lot of suffering.
But there doesn't have to be a lot of suffering.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I think now is a really great time to start embracing change, because you could either choose to have that suffering experience, or you can choose to move through the change gracefully.
Absolutely. The way that I see it is that the universe is always conspiring for us in our favor to bring us more joy.
I agree.
Now, the trouble is that we've accepted a certain reality, right? That our world functions a certain way. The problem is that for most people, it doesn't quite work out that way. Like, there's a lot of people that are struggling as it is now in their current circumstances. So if the universe is conspiring for us to bring us the most joy, we're going to have to go through some turmoil at the beginning in order to get there, right?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, because you said, I can't remember exactly how you worded it, but you were saying how you look at the world. What did you just say? Anyways, what you just said reminded me of the thought that like how one person views a world is completely different how somebody else views a world, but yet it's happening at the same moment.
Exactly.
So even though somebody has a different perspective than you, it doesn't make theirs wrong or yours wrong, but what it does is it's going to greatly impact your perception of your reality, meaning it's going to greatly impact whether you're going to view your circumstances as a negative or positive. So if you just think about the fact that you could have a positive experience through something that you may have originally perceived as negative, that in itself is super powerful. Like it's literally just adjusting your mindset, because there's the law of duality, which is where there's a positive, there's a negative, where there's a negative, there's positive, light, dark, left, right, up, down, you know.
Of course.
So
of course.
it's where do you want to put your attention on?
Of course. Now, in the short term, let's say somebody loses their job, right? It's hard to see the positive in that situation, right? When you know you have to feed your family and you have to provide. Of course, there's going to be scenarios where
Super stressful.
it is going to be stressful for sure.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, it's always for our greater good. And in the next, let's say, 30, 40 years, once those changes have happened, it's going to be a very different world. And I feel like we're all going to be, singing Kumbaya, and we're all going to be happy and all these things. The eternal optimist over here. But, in the short term...
And you mean 30 to 40 years as humanity, not for that individual who lost their job.
Yes, of course.
Just to clarify. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. So I agree that, shifting that focus is easy to say sometimes, but in reality, when those changes happen, it can be absolutely stressful.
Yeah, but take it. Hopefully this podcast, if it does nothing else but plant a seed. Because I understand that changing thought processes and beliefs and how you approach a situation take time to reframe thoughts and reframe beliefs. But maybe this will be the seed that will make you think next time you're in a situation like that, like, oh, wait a second, I can totally approach this from a different perspective if I want to.
Exactly. That there is a different, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And in fact, that light is a lot better than what I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, like a lot of these thoughts and a lot of our reactions that we have in life are based from our subconscious. And they're these thought patterns that are running the show that we don't even know are running the show. That like our reaction comes from this trigger that lives in the subconscious mind. And so if this just serves as an opportunity to change that thinking, like next time something stressful happens, maybe something stressful happened today, whatever it might be, but it's just it's like a window, a window to another thought process.
Totally. Yeah. Now, the way, when it comes to change, I've always embraced change, because for me, the moment that I let go and I just allowed things to kind of unfold the way that they did and just trusting the process, there's been so many changes. I mean, I've changed and moved cities. I've moved across the country. Now I've moved across the world, all along trusting the process that it's going to get me to the next place that I need to be. And the thing is that if you can reach a point where you're going in and allowing that inner guidance to come out and you're trusting your intuitions, that when the world starts changing or when your world starts changing, it can be done in a much more graceful kind of way, right? We can get to a point where we're pulled from our existing circumstances, kicking and screaming, or if we embrace spiritual practices and meditation, then we can allow change and it's not going to be that hard. And not even that necessarily it's our view changes of the situation. Like let's say we lose our job, because we're on that topic, right? Let's say we lose our job. In one scenario, we could be struggling for the next year to try to find a job, and it'd be extremely difficult when you have to penny pinch and all these things, and you really have to cut corners, and your family's struggling, and it puts a strain on your relationship. Or if you've done your work before, the internal work before that event happens, that when you lose your job, then there's going to be another opportunity that's just there for you waiting. And you just have to step up, trust your intuition, and take that opportunity.
And I don't think you necessarily have to have done your spiritual work beforehand, before this negative event happens. I think you can make the choice when that negative event happens to, in that moment, how do I want to look at this? So yeah, let's take that job loss, for example. So yeah, you lose your job, it sucks. Give yourself, a day? Be mad and upset and allow yourself to be negative for a day. If you really want to hold on to that emotion, allow it. Don't deny it, but allow it, and just be done with it. Allow yourself to move into the possibility that this happened because there's something better for you. You don't know what it is yet. You have to trust, but just know that there's something better for you, because at the end of the day, what is the point of stewing in this negative emotion? There's no point. I remember I've always been really excited about change. I haven't really been somebody so maybe I'm a really bad example and I shouldn't be talking about this. But yeah, I've never really understood why people hate change. And I've asked people who dislike change, and I've asked them, why do you not like change? The first thing that they always say is, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't like change. I don't know why I don't like change. I just don't like it. I like things to stay the same. That's what they always say. And think about it. If you're somebody who doesn't like change, think about that. Does that actually make sense?
Yeah.
You don't like change because you don't know why you don't like change.
For sure.
So you're allowing this belief to run your life that you don't even know why you believe it to begin with.
I know.
And I've asked multiple people.
Totally.
And there's not one person who's given me a solid answer as to why they don't like change. So challenge that belief if you've got that belief that you don't like change. Because, you can ask yourself, does this belief support me? Or does it put me down? Does it make my life harder, or does it make my life easier?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, for sure. Yeah, it's like we're hanging on to this idea that something can actually stay the same, but nothing changed. Nothing stays the same ever, right? Yeah. Our life goes forward. Things change all the time. People move on. People change.
I think the idea of people who say they don't like change, I honestly don't even think it's their own genuine belief. I think it's the belief that's been passed on from their parents and their grandparents, and just it's an ancestral belief. It's a societal belief. So I don't even think it's necessarily their own belief. It's just society tells you change is bad.
Yeah, totally. I'm going to back it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that, or I said that if you do your spiritual practices beforehand, it can make things easier.
It can make things easier.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, the reason why I say before is that most people, when they're faced with a challenge, that's when they lose their shit, right?
It's true. That's when all the old triggers come up in you. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So it's really hard to stay present and do your practices when you're in the middle of some situation, right? Yeah. That is the worst time to try to do that. Whereas if you've been practicing all along, then when you encounter a situation where you have to deal with something stressful, then it becomes a lot easier, and you can actually hold that presence to allow it to unfold gracefully.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. I was just saying that I just don't want people to be discouraged if they've never done their spiritual or done any sort of spiritual practice or meditation. It doesn't mean that you can't embrace change.
Of course.
But yeah, I definitely do agree with you that with our dog is walking around. That's the little clicking noise. But I do agree that if you have done your spiritual practices or meditation, just connecting with that part of yourself, that presence part of yourself, then I do think it does make it easier when the trigger does come up.
For sure. And everything that we're saying here, we're not necessarily talking about any specific spiritual practice, right? No. For me, it's meditation, right? For me, that's all it is literally going into that space where I allow no thoughts, just focus on my breath, or, the feelings in my body or something like that. Like, it doesn't have to go any more deep than that. If you can just simply sit there and just listen to your breath or watch your breath, take one conscious breath a day. That could be enough. It doesn't have to be this like crazy, esoteric, weird, woo-woo thingy, right? I mean, if that resonates with some people, well, so be it. You can do, you can howl at the moon and, whip out the guitar and get all crazy.
Totally.
That's totally cool too.
That's awesome.
If that floats your boat, it's totally awesome.
We actually should back this up like 5 episodes. And like from the beginning, we actually never said that we're not of any sort of religious denomination. I don't even know if I said that right, because that's how not religious I am. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
I think so.
Like I've never gone to church. I've never.
Heathen.
See, I don't even know what that means. Oh, does that mean that I'm like a bad?
Yeah.
I'm going to hell.
You're going to hell. You're going to hell for sure.
Well, if I don't believe in a God like that, but see, I have my beliefs, but I'm not like tied to a specific religion.
Yeah.
I have my beliefs.
Sure.
I believe in the universe. I believe in like energy.
For sure.
I believe that we're all one and we're all in this together.
And we're not saying that anyone that's listening that has any kind of beliefs is wrong. Absolutely not.
Not at
all. You
all.
can have your beliefs.
Totally.
You can find God or the universe or whatever you want to call it in absolutely any kind of religion or practice or whatever. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, like if I had to give my religion a name, it would be love. Like I believe in love.
That's a good one.
And so, yeah, we don't want to discourage people who are not religious to not participate in these podcasts with us or listen to them or, comment and interact with us. But then also people who are religious.
Totally.
Totally. Share your views with us too.
Yeah, totally. So when we talk about meditation, I mean, you can embrace meditation as it is. You can call it prayer if that's what resonates with you. It really doesn't matter. But ultimately, to allow graceful change, this stuff is so fundamental. I feel like it's such an important piece. And in fact, for me, it's the only way that you can really make life better.
It's so true. That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you totally hit the nail on the head. So yeah, if you're living a life and you're just kind of like, it's not exactly what I want, then you better get comfortable with change in order to step into what you do want, because it's inevitable. It has to change. Unless you want it to stay exactly the same, which it never will. And then you'll be in resistance your whole life and you'll never truly live what you desire.
Of course. And, sometimes the change can be a little bit scary, right? Like, let's say you're in a relationship where your partner just isn't either on the same level or doesn't love you like you deserve to be loved. You can expect that they're going to change and they're going to become different. But in some cases, it doesn't quite work out that way. Maybe they're not ready for change and you're going to be forced into a decision where you have to leave. And, those decisions are never that easy. But trust me, there is another person on the other side of that situation if you allow it, where you can just have the craziest amount of love you can possibly imagine.
I know, just think about all your ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends that you had when you were like, oh my God, they're my world. And then you break up with them and you're like, thank God they're out of my life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, eventually.
Eventually.
It's not always that easy right away.
No,
for sure.
No, of course
Especially
not.
if you're in the middle of a relationship, right? Like thinking that you might have to leave the person or that they might leave you. Scary shit. Can be real scary, for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. It's like unthinkable.
Definitely.
Yeah. And we're not saying you need to like leave your relationship.
No, God, no.
We're just using relationship as an example.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I think what we should mention that, if you're up for it and you allow, or you can get to a space where you allow change gracefully and, you want to go on an adventure, embrace these concepts full-heartedly. Just go crazy. If the universe throws you opportunities, take them, right? So many times we're given opportunities that would just change our entire world. And because we're afraid, we stay in our existing circumstances.
Totally.
That job offer that you didn't take, that, person that would have been an incredible partner, and we couldn't follow them across the world, or whatever the case may be. Life is absolutely an adventure if you allow it, and it could be the most spectacular thing you can even realize. So,
But like you said, you have to, we don't have to allow change, but it will change.
it will.
Because change is the only thing that can make your life better. I like what you said there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, when you wholeheartedly embrace it and just allow it and just, take those opportunities, there's some incredible stuff on the other side. And I think for most people, they have intuition that tells them that. Like, they know deep down that this is the right thing to do, yet they don't end up doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you stop what you're doing and you breathe into your heart and ask yourself how you truly feel. Like, is this going to move me to more joy, more love, or is it not? I think a lot of times people don't answer that question. Or is it like, why am I resisting this change? Is it because of fear? Well, if it's fear, then there's a good chance that you're not in alignment.
Yeah, definitely.
And
definitely.
perhaps you should shift your focus or ask yourself a different question.
A few years ago, I saw this little YouTube video. Have you guys seen this? It was like the one with the jelly beans. So they had this giant jelly bean or jar of jelly beans. It was huge. And they dumped all these jelly beans on the floor. And then they started counting out. So each jelly bean represented a day of your life. And I don't remember what the number was, but it was like, let's say 80,000 days or something. And they started counting out, okay, well, let's say you sleep an average of 7 to 8 hours a day, then that represents this many jelly beans. So they took that away.
Yeah, I do.
And then they took away the time that it takes for us to shower every day. That half an hour a day or 15 minutes or whatever it is adds up, right?
Yeah.
That might be like 200 days in a year or in your lifetime, right? So they take those jelly beans away. And then cooking, and then, taking care of loved ones and taking care of the baby and working and all these things. And then there was literally like a couple handfuls of jelly beans left in your entire jar of your entire life.
Yeah, that's
for the
scary.
days that you have left to make something that you want, to live that adventure, to do the things that you so desperately, your soul wants to do.
Yeah, that's kind of like how we felt about moving to Spain. It was, for me, a big part of it was I looked at my life and I was like, wow, my life is going by so fast. And I loved my job. I loved Vancouver where we lived. I loved everything about it, but it wasn't feeding my soul, and I knew I wasn't serving humanity the way I needed to. And so that was eating away at me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm now closer to 40 than I am to 30. And what am I doing? And then the universe gave us this opportunity to, we had the idea to sell everything and move to Spain and then really step into what it is what we want to do. And that was totally terrifying, but it's like the jelly bean thing. It's like, wow, time is going by so fast.
Oh yeah.
And if I don't step into what I know my soul wants me to step into, what my heart really wants to do, then I'm just going to get sucked into my job even more and this life that I really did enjoy. I did. And then what? I was literally thinking in 20 years from now, we're just going to own our condo and have, it just wasn't the life. I wanted to have more jelly beans to live more fully. And, I was just kind of realizing how fast time goes.
Oh,
that's a really
man.
good example. We should find that clip and put it in the
link somewhere.
in the link
Totally.
for everybody.
Totally. It's such a good thing to consider this stuff because, our society tries to hide death, right? Death is scary for sure, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And the last thing that I want is to wake up on my deathbed and have any kinds of regrets. That would be awful. That would be awful. Like, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. I wish I took this opportunity. Like that thought just scares the shit out of me. So, I'll embrace as much change as I possibly can in order to at least try, right? It doesn't mean that everything that I try is going to work out or whatever, but at least I won't have the regrets thinking that I could have had the chance. I could have done this. I could have accomplished this other thing.
What if?
Yeah, the what if. It's just terrible.
Yeah, and we're not saying you need to do what we did, because everybody has different passions, different drives in life. But whatever it is that you want to do, then do it, then pursue it. But I also, kind of like side note of change, like I really wanted to talk about just like daily changes. So we're talking about like big life changes, but I'm also talking about like, you had a certain idea of how you wanted your day to unfold, and then next thing you know, you're late, running behind, somebody doesn't show up for a meeting, or, your spouse can't pick up the kids anymore, so now you have to go pick them up, and it just messes up your day. Like, all of those are little changes too.
Of course.
They're changes and basically changes of your expectation of what you thought was going to happen. So all of everything we're talking about here applies to those changes too. Just how do you handle that with more grace and ease? Every time that we're late, or we're trying to get somewhere and we're late, I always think like, oh, okay, maybe this is just the universe giving me a message or protecting me. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, we didn't make that traffic light, but maybe if we would have made it, then like, I know it sounds like a really morbid thought, but sometimes I think like, well, maybe we would have gotten in an accident, or like there's all these kind of things that you don't know what the universe could be saving you from. Like I think the universe saves us from ourselves so many times.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I when change like that happens and it goes against what I want, I'll be like grumpy about it sometimes. Like, I'm human, I'm not perfect. I haven't mastered this completely, but I will get consumed sometimes and be super negative. But then I know, I'm like, okay, stop. Like, what?
That's a good point.
What is this? Like, how could this actually be helpful for me? How could this actually make my day better?
Oh, for sure.
Like, there's some like the picking up the kids, for example. Like, the husband couldn't do it, and so maybe if you looked at it like, wow, I get to spend more time with my children, or just whatever it might be, or you're. Yeah, I can't think of any other examples
when those things happen, there's no such thing as coincidences. Things happen for a reason, including you missing an appointment, including you
missing the bus.
Yeah, whatever the case may be. And it could be as little as hearing a conversation from a stranger as you walk by some bar or coffee shop. You just happen to catch a couple words of that conversation and something resonates within you, and it awakens a little part of your truth. A little part of your soul recognizes that, and then you become conscious of something else. And all those things are totally part of this whole game. Like, the universe is conspiring for us in every single way to try to wake us up. And it does that in everything. The universe is speaking to us at all times, including all those scenarios where, we expect a certain thing and then it changes, and now all of a sudden we end up somewhere else. All those things happen for a reason. So, we can just be frustrated and curse and say how shitty everything is. For sure. That's totally doable, and you can go through life that way. But that's hard. That's fucking tiring, yo. That sucks.
Yeah. I think that would be really hard.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And the other thing too is, once you learn to embrace change with ease and joy, it just, more of that happens, in your life. And then even when more change happens, you just kind of become like a really good master of change.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you start expecting positives, that every change is making you or bringing your life closer to more joy, more peace, more love, it actually does.
Yeah,
It's this whole crazy thing.
totally. And I think a lot of times our mind can't always understand it, but your heart will know. And then in the end, you'll see what happens.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, people, embrace change, embrace it. And especially, over the next, say, 5, 10, 20 years, as the world goes through these major shifts, because it's going to be sucky otherwise.
Yeah. So I think we probably, is there anything else you want to add about
Not really.
embracing change? I feel
Not really.
like we've chatted a lot about it. I'm trying to think if there's anything we missed.
Comment below. Let us
Yeah.
know what you guys think. Like, do you guys like change? Do you hate change? What's like the hardest change you've ever experienced? And what was the result?
Yeah.
Was it positive or negative? Let us know that.
Yeah.
We would love to hear.
Totally. And we're not talking about like, I lost my job today and it sucks. We're talking about like you have to give it a little bit of time.
Yeah, totally.
What was the result long term?
Absolutely. Something that you can look back on and now see the result, let's say a year, a month, 5 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Let us know the results and whether it was a positive or negative when you thought it was a negative thing at the time.
Yeah.
Let us know that.
So thank you so much for watching the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast.
Yeah, we really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening and comment below. Let us know what's up.
Okay.
Love you long time, peeps.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Spirit Ninjas Spiritual as Fuck podcast. Make sure to tune in next time for more deep conversations to uplift, inspire, and blow your mind. Spiritual as fuck.